Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Career Series second edition. This Career Series is an initiative by BITS Pilani Dubai Campus where we talk about all things that grade 12 students may want to know before entering engineering. In the first edition of Career Series, we had different episodes on each discipline where we talked about what courses you would study in a discipline, what is the student life like, and what is the future like. If you want to watch the first edition, go to BITS Dubai's playlist. In the second edition, we're talking about different goals and sort of a map to reach those goals. Our first episode was on how to land your dream job. Second episode was about starting up a new venture while studying at BPDC. In today's episode, we are going to talk about new age streams like AI, IoT, data science, robotics, networks, cybersecurity, and all the other buzzwords you might be hearing about lately. Firstly, we're going to demystify them. We'll get to know what these new age streams are, and then we will explore how you can master these streams at BITS Dubai and what opportunities lie ahead. Right, let me introduce the panelists for today. First panelist is Anshul Singhal. Anshul did his bachelor's in mechanical engineering and master's in design engineering from BITS Pilani Dubai Campus. He's an expert in product innovation and has worked in the fields of automotive, motorsports, aviation, ground support equipment, high-tech manufacturing, rapid prototyping, robotics, AI, and IoT. He's the founder and CEO of Sentient Labs, a multidisciplinary design studio. One of their products is a marine drone capable of managing the health of the water bodies autonomously. Next panelist is Suraj Khetani. He studied electronics and communication engineering at BITS Pilani Dubai Campus. Suraj has about 8 years of experience in information security and specializes in offensive security or red teaming. He is acknowledged by Oracle, Netgear, Dutch government, and the likes for reporting security vulnerabilities on their products. He currently works as an offensive security specialist at one of the largest banks in Middle East. Then we have Professor Siddhaling Urolagin. He is PhD in machine learning, postdoc from Sweden. He is currently working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science. His specialization is in data mining and foundations of data science. He was creative lab lead during the initial phase of lab establishment. He's now a member of APPCAIR, AI Center with SCOA. Then we have Nikhil Nair. He's seasoned sales and marketing professional with a passion for future consumer technologies. Industry experience of over 15 plus years in business strategy and integrated marketing communications for the private as well as public sector. Experience in business planning and handling operations for ATL and BTL marketing projects. Okay, so let's start demystifying the new age streams, the terms that we've all heard about, but we don't really know what exactly it means, right? So let me go to Anshul. Anshul, we've been hearing a lot about AI, artificial intelligence. What exactly is it?
So artificial intelligence is the new age artificial brain that's outside in the computers, and it's giving our phones, our systems, our computers, there's in the layman language, I would say the awesome, the sense of understanding, wherein you see, let's say, for example, for the audience, we have the Snapchat, which everyone is very fond of using. The face mask you get to implement on your face, the way your phone recognizes your features on your face and it puts the mask on your face. Everything is done by AI. Right. Autonomous cars is another very good example. Everyone is so fond of it. It pretty much works the way our neurons, the way our brain works. So when you teach a child over the years what looks like an apple, what is an apple, what's a green apple, what's a red apple. So you've seen so many apples that you can identify an apple. Similarly, you train a computer system what an apple looks like by feeding in thousands of images of an apple from different views for different colors, for different orientations. And that's how it starts to recognize and starts to understand. The math behind it, the obviously the software behind it, and the research behind it is quite sophisticated. But it's becoming more and more accessible and easier for people to use it. And that's why it's being so widely accepted in the market as well now over the past year.
Great. In fact, AI has become such a term that everybody keeps using it. But in today's episode, we're going to make an attempt to make it very simple for our audience, which is in grade 12. Right. All right. So next term that we're going to discuss about in today's episode is 5G. And let me go to Nikhil for that. So Nikhil, what are these 3G, 4G, 5G? What are these Gs?
Right. So technically, it started off way back in, I guess, early 1980s when you had your first generation of handsets, basically mobile networks. That was used just for transfer of analog calls. Back in 1990s, that merged. You got 2G, where you could start transferring digital calls on a mobile network. You started having mobile data with 3G back in the early 2000s. 4G, I guess everyone's got it on their phone today. I guess you've got 4G handset devices that allows you to have mobile broadband, transfer. I think what 5G does is it's going to be a game changer because, typically as a user and, you see just higher multimedia or data being transferred quickly and downloaded quickly. That's what it is all about. But
Correct.
5G is going to be in line with what Anshul mentioned. When you've got IoT and AI, you are able to actually use these technologies to the maximum on a 5G network. Typically at the back end, what helps it facilitate, and this is just good to know information for some of our audiences, is it allows you to use higher band frequencies with some really, really solid algorithms on your current infrastructure. So those could be base stations or on at operator levels, technically. So, but in a nutshell, 5G is going to really impact a lot of us with the AI component across.
Right. So I think it's all about wireless data transfer, right? So there was Bluetooth technology, then there was 3G, 4G, 5G. So I think I still don't understand what exactly is the technology change happening, but we do see that the transfer speed has increased tremendously. And of course, as the transfer speed increases, you can do so much more on the platform.
So Lohit, just adding on to that, the fact that aside from transfer speed, I think the major feature is going to be low latency. You will have 24 hours uninterrupted internet connectivity to any device. Not just your. So basically, these are just going to be chips put in any third-party device, and you've got 24 hours, non-stop connectivity.
That's amazing. So in terms of a consumer, it seems very simple that, all right, so what if I'm connected to all the devices anyway? But there's a huge amount of technology that goes behind it. And today we're going to talk about how do you become the person on play when you're creating these technologies. Nikhil mentioned the term IoT, right? So let me go to Anshul to demystify that term. Anshul, what is IoT? We've been hearing a lot about it.
So I think there's something else I would stitch into based on how 5G is actually enabling these technologies to prosper even further. So obviously, first to elaborate what IoT is, it's Internet of Things. So that's a very appropriate title because the simplest example I can give for the audience, obviously, is home kits. Everyone is pretty much used. They've used Siri, which is AI enabled, to activate devices in their house. Siri, Alexa, the Bixby, so many devices now. So what makes IoT a use case, I would say, in order to switch on a device in your house, which is not connected via wires anymore, but connected through the internet, is IoT. So that's pretty much a magic for the audience, how it's happening. But what's being supported at the back end is the backbone is 4G as of today, but 5G is making that possible at a speed which is so much faster that at a flick of a second, you can see things happen across the world. And even for the AI, 5G is becoming such an essential part. It's creating so many more opportunities at a business level, at a research level, that you can offload a lot of your computing from your laptops. They don't have to have such high computing speeds because you can make that happen over the cloud. So I think everyone is getting enabled with these technologies to do so much more.
Right. So I think it's making a lot of sense. So as engineers, we used to earlier create these devices. And now we needed these devices to function even better. And for them to function, we needed data to get into them. And for the data to go inside, that's where the G's come into picture, where you work on the technology and make it more efficient. And low latency is a very, very important thing so that the device can actually function with the amount of data that's coming in. Also, since you're talking so much about data, there has to be someone who has to be crunching all this data. So I think that's where data science comes into picture. So let me go to Dr. Siddhaling. What is data science, Dr.
Yeah, data science is another greatest opportunity which is happening throughout the world nowadays. And you can see many of the applications, starting from, take a very simple example. When you take a look at your mobile, nowadays, all mobile come up with a smart camera, and that camera can capture your picture whenever you smile. Many of the cameras have this kind of feature. So they basically recognize that there is a smile or there is a change in their face, and then they capture. So basically what happening inside that is a data science algorithm going through it and recognize. Another one of the example, what many people, they are surfing through online, they are going through purchases online. So you can see like Amazon. So suppose you go surf through Amazon, and then you check out what kind of order you want to see. Apart from that, at the lower or the right side or the bottom side, there is a lot of recommendations are coming. And these recommendations are nothing but are understood with the help of the historical data that is already existing in the system. And they are specific to the user age and various preferences. So it's like an intelligence. It's not only creating the interest to the user, but also recommending them. It is also reducing their the time, etc. So there are so many applications. And this is happening mainly because of the existence of a lot of data and followed by the computation that is present nowadays.
Absolutely. So Anshul talked about AI in the start, and I think data science is the core of what AI would do, right? So data science is the way to create algorithm. Am I correct? Is the format, is the framework to create an algorithm with which you can have AI functioning. Am I getting close, Dr. Siddhaling?
Yes. So there are basically two parts. One is a data collection that is absolutely required, and a lot of other things are the algorithms. So mathematics and a mixture of computer science related stuff both together. So this is like a interdisciplinary. The way in which it is growing is combining everything, mechanical, coming in, electronics, biology. So many fields are just nowadays that even you can see that drugs are designed with the help of the data science fields. So many things are coming now.
And your expertise is in data mining. So we maybe touch upon it later in this episode. All right, going to Anshul. Anshul, your expertise is in robotics. What is robotics, drone? These are the things that you worked a lot with. So for our audience, can you tell a little about what are these domains?
I think when it comes to robotics, it's a wide field. But I think what I would touch upon is drones specifically, because even kids are playing with drones nowadays, flying their phones to take their own selfies. So I think the reason I'm coming to this whole topic of selfies is because the audience is really going to enjoy understanding how that's working, and probably would want to build when they come to BITS Pilani soon.
Right.
So I think to elaborate how robotics is such a core of what's happening today, because we are definitely moving towards creating machines that are really complementing how humans are working and how they're complementing and assisting how humans are working today. So we call them, typically, I like to call them cobots. And how robotics is such a multidisciplinary field. People think we have to do robotics engineering to become robotics engineer, but then you could be a mechanical engineer, you could be electrical engineer, computer science, bio, tech in some cases, because robots are being built at the scale which could be in your stomach to find diseases, could be on land, could be of any size and form.
Yeah.
So that is where it's becoming very fascinating, and it's very important for people to understand what kind of a robotic engineer do you want to be, and what part of the robot would you want to contribute? Is it the brain? Is it the muscle? Is it the skeleton? Is it the looks of it? Or is it how it's being produced? Which is where 3D printing also comes in, which is a very hot topic at the moment these days. And obviously the part of AI and 5G comes in where, and obviously cybersecurity comes in, because you don't want robots to go rogue. So
right, absolutely. So robotics has been a very hot topic, as you mentioned. Another very upcoming stream is virtual reality, augmented reality. So we have Nikhil, who is an expert in extended reality, which is a mixed reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, everything put together. So Nikhil, what is this XR? What are these different realities all about?
Yeah, so obviously these terms are quite, have been like go-to words today. You say emerging technologies, you hear these words a lot. To keep it very simple, I think we are all using it in some form. I think the most fun way of experiencing, and we have been exposed, is we've tried augmented reality mobile applications. I think the most successful has been Pokemon Go, which everyone has probably played at some point in time. Virtual reality today is, again, one of the entry use cases is in gaming. You've got PlayStation VR. We've got our own, at HTC, we have our own virtual reality gaming platforms. So to keep it very simple, it's all about creating digital objects in the physical world, very simple, and your physical world into a digital, kind of environment. How do you get this to happen? That happens with a mix of hardware, software, content platforms, infrastructures like 5G. So when you put all these together, that's when you're able to create this ecosystem or these really cool digital and real-time environments. So augmented reality is more about digital objects in your physical environment. Virtual reality is a full-fledged immersive environment where it's 360-degree simulated. And then this keyword, which you just mentioned, XR, is, or mixed reality, is you start seeing both of these converging together. And that's where I think the applications for the audience members are endless. You can either work as a developer, or you can work in a real-time industry creating XR and VR applications, be it oil and gas, medical, healthcare, education. I mean, it's crazy.
Brilliant.
So there's a lot we can talk about.
This is so exciting, so exciting. So as engineers, we create devices, and now, of course, a new domain has come in where the devices are getting more and more intelligent based on the data which is being transferred, and that's where data science comes into picture. But to ensure that this data, when it is being transferred, is not meddled with, we have something called as cybersecurity. So I have Suraj here, who is an expert in cybersecurity. Suraj, in brief, what is cybersecurity all about?
Yes, so as you correctly mentioned, all this data that is being generated, all the systems that are communicating with each other need to be protected, right? And that is where cybersecurity comes into place. And it is basically about how you protect the communications that happen over the internet, or on your hardware, on your software, and so on. And within cybersecurity itself, there are a gamut of roles that people can apply to and work for. Let's say, for example, there is a role which specializes in in attacking things, right? Wherein we try and break into systems to find flaws so that the real attackers are not able to find them. Then there is the blue team, which try to defend these things that happen, right?
Okay.
And there are various other fields within cybersecurity itself. If I can probably go on for a day talking about these things, and still won't be enough. So yeah, that is in short about cybersecurity.
But sounds very, very exciting, right? So you basically avoid any kind of attack. So normally people do it in the physical world, you do it in the online world. So you stop the attacks. All right.
We stop the attack by actually attacking, yes.
Yeah, right. That's great. I think this is a very good setup that we have now to demystify all the new age terms. So now that we know what are these terms like AI, IoT, robotics, all this is about, let's go on to our next segment, which is opportunities in the new age streams. All right, let me go to Anshul. Anshul, you are an expert in AI, you are an expert in IoT, robotics. So tell me, what are the opportunities right now for jobs and to start up their own company if students are looking at these domains? Where can they find themselves in 5 to 6 years from now?
I think in terms of jobs or starting their own business, or for that matter, getting into research, all of these things are pretty amazing places to be in, because there is more opportunities than there are talents available. Because as a matter of fact, these were not traditional courses in the universities at a scale where they're becoming as of today. Even industries themselves within the companies are teaching these skills and upgrading the skills of their current employees. So at a scale where the industry is growing, if you talk about AI, it's not just about cars, it's not just about, as even Dr. Siddhaling was talking about, at the back end of Amazon, at the back end of a lot of e-commerce stores, you have AI running. So AI as a whole, if you are getting into that field, you have job opportunities literally wherever your eye can see, wherever you can go on the internet. As far as IoT goes, again, everything that was traditionally connected physically is now being disconnected to go remote. And people are trying to make these physical devices smarter and smarter. So there is so much more to do with these technologies that even if the opportunities do not exist, companies are trying to explore how they could get into the digital era. So there is a lot of opportunity for consultancy in this era, and there is a lot of scope for students who come from a background where they specialize in the subject matter, wherein being a mechanical engineer, you might not know about AI, but then you understand the subject matter so well that you can help augment the data, which helps run the AI algorithm at the back end. So that is where people need to understand that you don't have to be an AI expert to be a part of the AI team, but you have to be a subject matter expert to help the AI team actually implement the algorithm, to understand the subject matter, to actually help the AI algorithm to perform at its best.
Okay.
Similarly, for IoT and for the other robotics, I clearly elaborated quite a lot in the past, right?
Right. So which are the sectors which are hiring extensively in AI, let's say, and what are the entry-level jobs like? What are the, what is the work like?
I would say automotive is quite a vast field for AI. E-commerce industry is a huge field for AI again. If it comes to 3D printing, I think we didn't touch upon that, but I would really want to pick up on that because that's a massive industry coming in.
Okay.
And I would say aerospace, aviation, healthcare, medical, fashion is just a crazy field where 3D printing is. Construction is a field. Construction is involving AI at a huge scale because they're trying to make construction way smarter. The way construction is being done is drastically changing. No one is now going the conventional way of trying to build the architecture. Even in the, I would say, fashion industry is bringing in AI experts at quite a big scale.
Okay,
so
interesting.
These industries definitely have a lot of people looking out for AI.
Right. Yeah. All right. Going to Nikhil. Nikhil, what are the kind of job opportunities in 5G?
So obviously, you've seen, I mean, as we elaborated earlier, there's so much of new, applications that 5G is getting into. And obviously, as we've discussed, a lot of overlaps, be it with IoT, be it with AI. Those one obviously straightforward is there's a huge shift now in the next 10 years where you will see a lot of operators moving from upgrading those, there's entire networks from a 4G network to 5G, which it works at two different levels. One is at a supporter level. So you've got the likes of brands like Ericsson or Huawei who are actually building these mobile networks, right? So there's a lot of consumer, network broadband companies who are part of that ecosystem. There's a lot of opportunities there. The second is obviously at an operator level. And third is, again, some similar to what Anshul mentioned, where if you are a subject matter expert and you get into helping industries get 5G ready, all those applications. How can it help in upgrading their existing IT infrastructures to making sure they maximize those applications? It could mean, it's all industry specific. They could probably have a use case for AI. They could probably have a use case for IoT. Multiple levels where a 5G subject matter specialist or consultant can come on board and support them. And then at an entrepreneurial level, you could actually get on board and start a 5G consulting firm where you start helping companies evolve and build their their base up. So again, there's no fixed a platform. I think it's evolving, it's growing, and we're all adapting is what I would say.
Interesting, very nice. Going to Dr. Siddhaling. Dr. Siddhaling, you must have seen a lot of students who have studied under you data science, right? So what kind of jobs have they gone into, and what do you see in terms of opportunity? Which all sectors are hiring extensively in data science?
Data science has a lot of application, ranging from medical to e-commerce. Everywhere the data science and AI has been applied. Many of my students I have seen, they either choose to move on to become a master and specialized in data science, or they can choose into MBA kind of a degree where they are both mixture of both the knowledge of data science and then going for a management of the various projects. And many of them are also choosing for a research. So data science is a field which is like a requirement of the research. So students may pursue PhD, and many of the students are doing that. So they take the immediate either master, or they can jump into the PhD. That is a very good opportunity. After PhD, also you have a lot of opportunities in terms of the industry exploration or academics. Many things are possible after doing the PhD. So many streams are there for the students. Yes.
Right. So what kind of jobs do they take up? What is the job like? Data science engineer, machine learning engineer?
Data science engineering, machine learning engineers, or data analyst is another field where they work. So business analyst so is a possibility because they need to some exploration of the business domain, and then they can become a business analyst. So many fields in which they can work.
All right. Going to Nikhil. Nikhil, what are the opportunities in the XR domain? Because XR domain is just picking up now. So I think it's going to be there for a very long time. So what are the opportunities that you see in XR?
Sure. It's quite exciting. We see one is obviously there's a huge demand for content developers across. You've seen those ecosystems where you've got a 3D TV, but you don't have 3D content. And obviously you've seen 3D, that entire industry has kind of phased out. A similar kind of an experience has been even on virtual reality, where we've seen, the ecosystem on hardware has evolved, but there's still a huge gap in terms of the actual content being available. So there is one at two different levels. One is where there are companies, I'll give an example, all the students at BITS Pilani are going to have, use the software, which is AutoCAD. Today, we work with the guys at Autodesk, and we've created a dedicated application called Autodesk Revit, where you can render all your 3D, your 3D diagrams into virtual reality. So you're not just creating a 3D flowchart, but actually a full virtual reality walkthrough of what you've rendered.
Amazing,
right?
Amazing.
So those kind of applications, a lot of software companies today are upgrading their existing softwares, be it Dassault, be it 3D Max, all into virtual reality. The second is content developers creating their own companies to fulfill industry requirements. At retail, I'll give an example. You've got IKEA. When we opened the first store in Hyderabad back in India, to create demand for their respective store opening, because it was huge in India, they created a full virtual reality store as a pop-up store in one of the malls. This was done with one of the developers back in the UAE. So you actually, even before the physical store opened, you could actually walk through your entire, the actual store in VR and actually purchase it through an e-cart option. So when the physical store opened, the first set of consumers who tried it out at the mall earlier got their first shipments delivered across to them. So that these are where you start getting entrepreneurs coming in and fulfilling gaps at multiple levels. Another really cool example is in terms of filmmaking. Very diverse, but if you've got a creative skill and you really want to grow, VR filmmaking is actually becoming a different field and quite exciting by itself, where the most cooler part is you can actually change the narrative. So there's a little bit of immersive and let's say the viewer wants to see a different ending and feels that that's the route he wants to go. You can actually adapt 2 or 3 different endings in a VR experience in filmmaking. So these are the kind of applications I can talk about. But
for an engineer who has studied something related to domain, where can they find the opportunity? So
definitely at a developer level, as I said, the 2 major softwares are the engines that we use are we have Unreal Engine, which is one, and then more importantly, also you've got Unity, which is one of the other base softwares being used to create all these XR, VR, AR applications. Second is also at a product design level. Major use case when you talk about be it automotive industries, healthcare, architecture, real estate. lot of use cases where engineers can come on board
course.
and use these softwares. So I would say
Awesome.
industry-specific developers and product design. I think these are the three major categories I could talk about.
Right. And XR, of course, has given another dimension literally to all the other sectors. So the opportunities are going to be a lot. Okay, coming to the last segment of last part of opportunities is in cybersecurity. So Suraj, what are the kind of jobs available for cybersecurity?
Yes. So as I mentioned, there is a gamut of options that is available within cybersecurity itself. It is a vast industry. So you could have roles such as a penetration tester, right? Who would again hack into systems and find the vulnerabilities and report to the management. You could have a SOC analyst who would see the logs coming in and see what kind of attacks are going on, and then report it if in case an attack is happening. There is a forensics guy, right, who would come into place when an attack has already happened, right? So he would collect the evidences, do the forensics on the kind of data that has been collected and see how the attack chain actually happened. Then there are people who work in the product security side. Like as said, there are new products being developed, like the IoT and the IoT itself has many applications and protocols it uses. So the security engineering around that would fall in this aspect. Then there are non-technical roles as well within the information security, like you write policies, procedures for people to follow, so that things are in place and they do not get deviated with that people are not following the best practice and so on. Right. So these are job opportunities. There are more which go into more niche areas of within cybersecurity. Right. You could do vulnerability research, into specific things, like the kernel level OS research, where you find issues in the kernel level and so on. So there is a whole lot of things you can do within cybersecurity.
Right. Sounds amazing opportunities for all the new age streams. Going to our next segment. Well, it seems like there's a lot of opportunities for, of course, new age streams. These streams are there to stay. Let's go and see what is a typical day at work like when you're working in one of these streams. So let me go to Anshul. Anshul, what's your typical day at work like when you're working on AI, IoT, robotics? What is it that you actually do?
So my typical day at work is more or less spending a lot of hours in catching up with my team. So I typically spend 6 to 8 hours only meetings with all my different teams, because as a founder, I need to spend a lot of time in strategizing every different parts of my product. So that's majority of my time spent, and it looks like the days are very long, especially when it's already been quite a long time in the company. And apart from spending time as a founder in strategizing and obviously looking at the as a problem solver, you can call it, I spend time in obviously doing what I'm good at. So I would spend time at coding. I would spend time at doing things like designing. So when it comes to specifically about what would you do as a person who's in AI, I would spend a lot of time in training data. I would spend time in testing the data, and I would look at how the data is performing on the robot. When it comes to 3D printing, we would spend time in doing a lot of testing and prototyping, seeing how the tolerances are working out, how the fit up is working out. So a lot of my time literally just goes as planned, not as planned, and trying to plan as to how the next day should look like. So it's a pretty chaotic day in a nice way, but it's lengthy days. Yeah.
All right, going to you, Nikhil. What is your typical day at work like?
It's quite interesting. I kind of report to 2 different teams. We have a headquarters in Taiwan, and my line manager is sitting back in Poland. So there's always a +8 hour difference at any point in time. I start my day at 6 a.m. with a barrage of emails in my folder. And then obviously we go all the way up to 8 p.m. because of the time difference with the guys in Europe. We obviously driving the consumer business for HTC across the Middle East and African markets. Aside from growing our distribution and partnership channels, there's a lot of work that we do in product strategy. I think that's one of the most exciting parts that I have on my job, where we decide what is the portfolio of products we want to range within our VR and 5G business units, and I think commercializing those products to the market and creating a full-fledged go-to-market plan, I think is extremely exciting, and that's something that we do day in, day out. A lot of variables, especially when you work with different countries. A market like South Africa is absolutely diverse compared to Saudi Arabia, and then all those dynamics from currency fluctuations to to different distributor relations. They play a major role, and then obviously balancing those up.
Very nice, very exciting. Absolutely. Right. Going to you, Suraj. What is a typical day like for a cybersecurity expert? What is that? What is it that you do from the start?
Right. So within cybersecurity itself, I work in the offensive side. So it would typically vary from person to person.
What is offensive side?
Offensive side is basically trying to break in and evading the security controls that are in place at organizations. So
you have a counter defensive side also in your company.
Exactly.
And you both keep fighting.
Exactly. So that's what happened. So let's say, for example, we know a particular threat actor. A threat actor is anyone who would attack certain type of organizations. So a threat actor would attack a financial organization. So we would get those threat intelligence reports from the threat intelligence team, and they give them to us, and they say that, okay, these are the steps that an attacker would take to compromise the organization, right? So we break down those steps and simulate those steps, basically. And we try, let's say, for example, we know that a particular threat actor deploys a ransomware, right? So we would go ahead, we would make sure that we write our own malware, right? Using C and C++ or C#, and then we would run that particular code on our endpoints and see how our defensive controls come into place, right? And we would deploy the ransomware and see how the incident teams respond in terms of an attack, right? So that is what a typical day involves. So this full activity takes about 2 weeks to do from us starting to understand how the attacks take place to trying to code that particular malware and trying to deploy them on the network.
Okay. And you work in a team, of course. So how large is your team?
Work in a team. So the offensive security unit consists of 3 guys, right? But the overall information security team is about 50 people. So each of them having their own roles and responsibilities, and different things being done by every member.
Right. And how do you grow in this career? So where do you start and where do you reach?
So what happens that when you initially join the industry, for me, I had worked as a vulnerability assessor. So I just had to run tools and get out the report and submit that to the customer, right?
Okay.
I did not really understand what the vulnerabilities were. They just had to pick those vulnerabilities and so on. So as you progress, as you become much more senior, you are expected to know know how these vulnerabilities work, how these protocols work, and you should be able to explain them to the customer. So at the end of the day, it means that you should know how your tools work. You should know how the TCP protocol works. So if you do not know that, then you're not going ahead of the curve. You should know how to code. You should start learning how to code. Yeah, so that's, you will progress.
Got it.
Basically.
Okay, going to you, Dr. Siddhaling, what do data scientists actually do? So what is their job like, and where does it start? Which is the entry level job? Where do they progress?
Yeah, so the data science has many roles in the industry for what students can look in. So first one is a initial analysis of the data. So it is also called as data analyst job. That is the role. So here they don't do any machine learning or AI fitting, but later as they grow in and get in experience, they also start building their own models. So that is main on the role of machine learning engineering. And then they become a data scientist, senior data scientist, lead for the data scientist. That is another major jump in the career progression, and then they can be a team head for the data scientist. So as they grow from the initial level, so they should be spirited. One of the main challenges of the data science is not only understanding the business requirements when they get into the industry, but also understanding how they can utilize the existing technology as well as the algorithms. So as a student or the person who is aspired to become data scientist, take this particular career path, should be open-minded. Like he should understand and able to apply these techniques. So he can think of various existing real-world application even, and then start understanding. So you can think the data science is pretty much like a small brain, how the initial brain can think of, and prediction or forecasting. All these things come into picture, and in a similar way, how the human can do. So in that fashion, if you are really understanding it and then picking up these technologies, so you can go ahead in the long and achieve many progress in your life in the data science career.
Got it. Great. All right, now that we've seen what these streams are, we've seen the opportunities, we've seen what typically a day is like. let's go on to understanding what do you need to do at BITS Pilani Dubai Campus to be able to join these streams. Build a profile. What are the courses that you should do to be able to enter these new age streams? So for that, let me go to Dr. Siddhaling, who is the Associate Professor of Computer Science at BITS Pilani Dubai Campus. Dr. Siddhaling, what are the courses which are on offer at BITS Pilani Dubai Campus for a student who wants to enter these new age streams? And of course, it's majorly related to computer science. But if there are students entering not with computer science, with any other stream, how can they get into these new age streams?
Yes, so these new age streams, what we are so far discussing, the best part is that they are also called as universal applications. So whether you are in the biotechnology, biology, or whatever the streams you are there, even in the mechanical, as Anshul was telling, so this is the way robotics comes into picture. So it need not be the only one stream, the computer science. Computer science would be the mainstream where you will get all the related subject of the computer science. But if you take a look at the application, so it is a take a look at what mobiles are. Mobiles are nothing but the blend between the electronics and the computer science.
Correct.
So the student who is also doing electronics, they can go and pursue some of the core electives, open elective or the discipline elective in terms, and then they can acquire this knowledge in terms of artificial intelligence, foundation of data science, data mining, and various other like cryptography related and many other mathematical foundation courses. So as the student will understand the various technologies related to the new streams, they can choose their path. So initially they can try out one or two extra subject in order to understand what exactly the subject would look like. So suppose he is interested in network, but at the same time he is more interested in artificial intelligence. There are opportunities for that. So he can choose the network related subject, and he may be electronics guy. So he may be taken electronics. It is not necessary that he should be computer science, but he may be electronics and he is very good at network, and then you push on to the artificial. So there are requirements such as cybersecurity, which is having application of all three of them. Even in the case of, I would like to say, medical science and the biology is another example where students are well versed with the knowledge of the medicines and all these things. So nowadays the drugs are designed with the help of artificial intelligence. So here, if you do like to see biotechnology students mixing with their own domain knowledge along with artificial intelligence, to give one or two example nowadays, like one very interesting application is use the X-ray images to understand the chest congestion. Now maybe highly usable nowadays with the current situation is that the students with the background of biology, they utilize the computer science and then they applied it onto the X-ray, then understood whether there is a congestion exists or not. So these are the universal application. You may be domain expert of one and you can build upon all the other things. Apart from that, how do you develop within the campus if you really enter to any of the engineering for that matter? I need not be one specific. And then how do you develop your skills? One of them is you can go for the various projects. So one is the design project, lab-oriented project, and study-oriented project. So these are like along with your actual curriculum, you will continue these projects. So how these projects will be turned? So a theme is selected by both the professors and the student, and it will be given. So suppose if it is a data science related project in a biology, so I suppose, and a person will identify what is the application. I want to grow the tree, or what is the possible kind of structure or the nature of the soil is required. So this is what we would like to forecast in near future. So this could be one of the example. So that will be decided with both the professor as well as the student, and there is a lot of data collection happens within the domain. It is not necessary that you jump across the domain and then, but you bring in the artificial intelligence to this your domain and then develop various code. And apart from that, there are architecture and are developed, and then there is a deployment of this architecture. If the student is really interested and pursue further, they can either go with a thesis, on-campus thesis or off-campus thesis, where there is a one semester full opportunity for the student to get into depth of that. When I meant by depth, what is the usual way of artificial intelligence is the application side. But when they want to get into further depth, they can either go into mathematical part of it or building the complete software product out of it. So these are the two opportunities they will explore during the thesis. So thesis is also related with the research. So they do one domain research, and then followed by that, they will also go for a publishing very good journals in this particular stream. And apart from that, we have various tech clubs. So when you say a student want to pursue various extracurriculum activities, we have a tech club, Microsoft, ACM, Linux user tech club, which are oriented to build the various skills. New age streams are mixed with Linux. Say there is an open source, how to install the software. There are various Azure platforms, there are trainings will be taken place in these various clubs. So along with the curriculum, there are projects. Along with the curriculum, there are electives. And along with all these activities, they are given the exams, everything. They can also participate in the various tech clubs. Tech camp is totally managed and governed by the student. They themselves will do a lot of activities under the advisors. So they can decide, like ranging from the quiz activity, panel discussion, they have many more, like code developer, so many exposure they will get throughout their activity in these tech clubs. So all in all, what I really feel, suppose some student comes and even they is not able to decide what kind of a stream he has to go, he can choose out various different fields, work initially, understand that, and then he can decide, okay, I have to be expert in this particular field, and there are plenty of opportunities exist there also.
Amazing. I think this was a very, very detailed description of how students can actually enter the new age stream, right from starting from BITS Pilani Dubai Campus. We talked about the courses, we talked about the clubs, industry exposure, which is PS program. Amazing, brilliant. Coming to you, Suraj, what were you doing when you were on campus, and how did it lead you to cybersecurity?
Right. So when I had started off, when I had a keen interest in the networking side, I also had a bit of interest in the security side. What I simply searched is how to crack wireless network. So that was some sort of project that everyone who's initially interested in security would try and attempt. Right. So this is the thing is that you should be curious about how systems work, how they communicate, and then you should have a project-based approach on what you would like to attempt, right? And go for it and attempt that.
Now, Nikhil, what did you do when you were in BPDC? Which kind of courses you took? Which kind of electives you took? And how did you upskill to get the expertise in XR?
Yeah, so BPDC played a huge role in me being where I am today, for sure. I started off as a computer science engineering elective for the latter half of my graduation. However, the initial base courses we did have base foundation courses like marketing. That really gave me a flair, introspect for me to understand that I really wanted to pursue something with marketing and technology. So that kind of led towards me. Though I got placed with one of the better companies back called ScreenCheck Middle East in their business development team. I used to dabble with a lot of events on the side during my year 4. Plus the practice school sessions that I had mostly with Mitsubishi Elevators for the 6-month internship really kind of gave me a thorough understanding of the fact that I wanted to be in the sales and marketing team for a technology company. So that kind of led me to working 5 years in the events field, but only for consumer tech brands such as LG, Sony, Samsung, Sharp, and even Motorola and Google. And that kind of set the tone for me jumping ship towards the brand side, where I joined Lenovo for a brief stint in the sales and marketing team, as well as Dell, and then I transitioned to HTC. So right. A lot of learnings. I mean, something as simple as having an objective perspective towards developing strategy or my decisions. I think BPDC played a huge role in helping me have that perspective.
Right. Were you part of any club department when you were on campus?
We formed an offsite marketing club. That didn't last for too long, to be honest. But I think for our batch, we focused a lot with doing all those promotions for consumer tech companies. So we kind of got to enjoy both those sides.
Coming to you, Anshul, when you were on campus, what were you doing? What led you to robotics, AI?
So I think when I was on campus, I was always keen on making cars. I was always keen on building something, for that matter. And the first thing the moment I entered BITS Pilani, I saw a huge field which had no grass, but now has an amazing football field. And there was a huge mechanical workshop independent building, which we used to be very proud of because everyone else had a shared building. But we had a lot of machines. So I saw the immediate opportunity of starting to build things. And that's one thing I really wanted to press on, that whoever joins the university should definitely not miss out on the chance of just attending lectures, but utilize all the softwares that are available, all the labs that are available, all the machines that are available, also the professors. Because once you graduate, these things just rather become unavailable and they are expensive to buy, even hard to approach. Even if it's your own university, even though you're most welcome, but it's not the same thing, So you pay so much money for, first of all, studying, and then you pay so much more money outside. It's like almost getting tuition while you're studying, and get certifications for things and pay, other companies to train you for using those softwares while you had these things at your disposal as part of the curriculum. So the whole thing was, starting from the first year of college, I was making Formula style cars with not just myself. I just gathered a lot of students, formed a team, and then inspired myself and everyone else to go for competitions around the world. We had no money, and then college supported us a lot. Alumni supported us greatly in giving us money. We also chipped in a lot, and we went for international championships. So I think that way, BITS Pilani has helped us a lot. Students have helped us each other, and I think the resources have been great. And that's how we got into the whole mindset of product development. Industries have helped us a lot, knowing that we were coming from a very reputed university. And it was funny enough, wherever we went, we always found a BITSian sitting at a good position who was happy enough to say that, oh, you guys come from BITS. I was a BITSian once, and he just ends up telling us all his stories from his college days. And so that's how I became so passionate about building products. And I still happen to have a great network of people here. And because of the support, I think that becomes something where you become passionate about what you do now.
Absolutely.
So I think the takeaway is just don't get into books alone. Utilize what you have learned in college itself, not after you graduate.
Right. I think that's a very, very nice point that you mentioned, that BITS has a plethora of things to offer. Apart from the courses, it's the community of students which are so talented. Then you've got all these labs, which has no strict curriculum, but you can go ahead and experiment as you want to.
I was saying especially, I was just going to say that choose to live in the hostel because you definitely get 24/7 access to everything, which just gives you a double bonus to making use of the facility, which is immaculate. I mean, especially the biotech lab, my sister was in the same university, so I can speak on her behalf, is just state of the art. So you do not get access to such things. And obviously, when you go to an employer, they really appreciate that you're aware of such tools and you have used these tools. You are aware of how to even manage them, which really becomes a very big advantage rather than just mentioning a a list of Udemy courses you would have done, wherein you were supposed to be focusing on your main degree.
Right.
So I think the focus needs to shift for people.
Absolutely. Apart from the courses, it's the practical knowledge that you get on campus.
It's not filling the CV and pages. It's just it's mastering what you're learning at the moment.
Absolutely. Dr. Siddhaling, you've got an input here.
Anshul is saying there is a very newly built creative lab has been brought in. The idea of the creative lab is to have an interdisciplinary research. So as we were understanding that this is not only the kind of stream which you have that knowledge, and then it's not going to work in that world application. You take any world application, it's a mixture of all the different engineering. So a mechanical will come with a computer science, electronics, then only the kind of a real world application will be built. So idea of that is to have a creative lab. And then there are various mainframes, GPU servers, which are there. Student can utilize the various 3D printer and PCB printer. So many different equipments have been brought up, and it is 24/7 open. Student can just access the lab, go and spend their time, build their own team. There are various startups also taking place because of this kind of environment. So student can make up their ideas, discussion. There is a very nice setup for the discussion. Student can sit for a longer time, and then they can give and the presentation within themselves. They can take advisors also from professor, but it's not mandatory. It is for the students. So this is one of the best facility what we have at BPDC, which all students can just utilize it. So that is the one of that I wanted to add to that one.
Right.
That's
I think in every episode, the name Creative Lab has come up. So I think it must be something to see. I've not seen it. So everybody who is aspiring to be an engineer must definitely go and visit the lab once. When you were explaining, Dr. Siddhaling, about Creative Lab, it sounded like a co-working space, but for experimentation, right? So another brilliant name for that could be co-experimenting space, where people from different disciplines would come and experiment together and create something new. Brilliant. I think it was a very, very nice discussion. Thank you everyone for all the inputs that you've given. New Age stream has always been very mystical. Though we talk a lot about these streams, we don't really know. I didn't know, you of course know. Students don't know much about these streams. Today's episode, I think, will help a lot to the grade 12 students, the engineering aspirants who want to take up these streams but don't know what to do. So I think today's episode is going to help a lot. Thank you all for your input.